Welcome to Northernlights. I'm Mark, and today I'm going to be going over the rise of Tom Aspinall. So I think with UFC London coming up this weekend, it'd be good to do like a kind of rundown, a bit of a recap of UFC's Tom Aspinall, the heavyweight prospect. Just talk about his UFC career in the past, his journey from just being relatively unknown to all the way to where he's got to be this weekend to be a real heavyweight title contender. Now, his first fight was actually in the summer of 2020 against Jake Collier. And it took Tom all of 45 seconds to get the TKO victory. He came out with just a 1-2 that landed Jake on the floor, and then he finished it up with a couple of follow-up shots. Now, I don't think your debut does get any better than that, to be honest. It's very quick, very devastating knockout as well. If you go back and watch that, you see the force that landed as well. So it looked like it could be a real problem even back then on his debut fight. Now, Tom's second fight in the UFC came in the same year, 2020, but in October. And again, against Alan Bodott. Again, he made very quick work of Alan with a TKO victory. That happened at 1 minute, 35 seconds in the very first round. I mean, Tom, he got caught a couple of times. I'm not going to lie and just say that he was absolutely, phenomenal. He came out unscathed. But, you could see the progression already happening. This is his second fight. He managed to get Alan down. He managed to get on top of him and just got the TKO finish by pummeling with punches until the referee had to stop it. Again, you're off to a great start if you finish both of your fights in the first round. The total of both of his fights doesn't even equal 3 minutes at this point. Early 2021, Tom fought one of the veterans of the heavyweight division, Andrei Arlovski, obviously is a former champion. He's a big name. He was one of the best in the world at one stage as well. And I never like to say that too much or put too much emphasis on it because, obviously Arlovski is still, he's a very veteran of the game. He's very seasoned, but that's exactly it. He is a bit seasoned now. I'm not trying to make excuses for him or anything because Tom came out, he looked great as well. This one took him actually a little bit longer. Tom still got the finish, but it took him into the second round where he submitted him. He looked great throughout the entire fight. And to be able to knock off a former champion, no matter what their age is, it really does put a stamp on your card. He managed to take him down, and he got him in a rear naked choke, and it was a bit of a surreal thing, really, because to me it didn't look like Andre. I don't want to say it didn't put up a fight, but it didn't try and escape. It didn't get too much momentum going to escape. As soon as that rear naked was locked in, it just instantly stopped. Maybe just to save himself from any unnecessary damage, but another win for Tom in his third UFC fight. Now, later on in 2021, Aspinall, he took on Sergey Spivak. Now, I'll admit, I actually doubted Tom in this. I thought Sergey was going to do, because Sergey finished my boy Tai Tuivasa. I managed to watch that live as well in Melbourne. He took him down and he submitted him. I thought the same thing was going to happen again. I thought it was going to come in, wrestle Tom, because we didn't really see Tom wrestle too much since then. But Sergey, again, he got TKO'd in the first round again. It took him 2 minutes, 30 seconds to get this TKO done. I think he broke his hand at the time, but I remember he'd come out with a quick strike to the side of Sergey's head, and it landed against the cage, came over, finished the fight, wasn't needed. But I remember seeing the video of the post-fight afterwards where how emotional Tom was that he won the 50 grand bonus for finishing Sergey that night, because this was only on a fight night as well. So it was, you don't want to pluck on the emotions too much, but it was real nice to see just how much it meant to him. You get to see this human side of him, that, how far he's come, and, he can do this. Not that it ever did doubt himself, but it is nice from a fan's perspective just to see, and especially from a British fan's perspective, because, we're all rooting for another English champion, another British champion, whether I won since Bisping. And Tom's most recent fight in the Fight Night London earlier this year was against Alexander Volkov. Now, this was going to be, for me, a real test for Tom, because, we've seen Alex take people into the deep waters. He's got the finishes. He's a really skilled striker. He can grapple, he can strike, everything. He's almost like he's just a well-rounded fighter. And Tom made it look easy. Now, I sound like I'm blowing smoke up Tom right now, but it genuinely did. He was so quick with his hands. He managed to take Alex down, and it looked like with ease. There was relatively no dramas whatsoever with taking him down. He managed to get the straight armbar finish in the first round. It took him 3 minutes 45 seconds to get the finish, and it crushed any doubts that I ever had about Tom. With his grappling skills, his submission skills. I thought it was just a stand-up striker, just a stand and bang until that point. But it really did stamp out anything. And I was so glad that this was the main event as well. I know it was in London, so it had to be a Brit, but I was so glad that Tom got this spot. It proved, how he can do in front of the big crowds as well, because obviously during the pandemic, Tom was just in the apex, with no crowds there. But this time, the main event, however many thousand there, all screaming for him. And I was one of them as well from the other side of the world. And it was just to see it all come together and right now he's beat Alexander Volkov. He's now moved up again. Now this weekend we've got Aspinall and Curtis Blades, which again I should be past the point of saying it'll be a real good test for him, because he's proved his worth again and again and again in his UFC. He's undefeated in the UFC, but Curtis Blades is a real test. He's got a lot of experience. We all know how good Curtis's grappling is, his wrestling in general. And he proved in his last fight against one of the Dorcas brothers that he can stand as well, because he came out in the second round, and I think it was like a 17-second knockout or something. And that was, it was definitely, it wasn't just a little TKO or anything where you think, oh, it could have been stopped. It was definitely a finish. And this is just such a great moment when it happens quite regular in the UFC, where you get two fighters coming up against each other, and you just don't know what's going to happen. You just do not know how it's going to go, because they're both well-rounded. They both presented the skill set over and over again in the previous fights. And this time, I think whoever wins this, I've got to admit, I'm rooting for Tom. I want to see another British champion. Whoever wins this has got to be in line for a title shot. We've got Tuivasa and Garn in September. We've got maybe potentially the return of John Jones versus Stipe. But with these two, Curtis and Aspinall, you've got to really think that could push them towards the title shot. Perhaps one more fight after this and then go for Ngannou. But we can just wait and see. We can see this weekend. I'm not going to miss it. I'm going to be getting up from the other side of the world to go watch this. We've got to root for Tom, but I think it's going to be an exciting card from start to finish. But that's been Tom Aspinall's UFC career. We're going to be live streaming UFC London as well this weekend. So if you'd like to pop in and say hello. And for now, I think that's all I've got time for. If you can like, comment, and subscribe, it really does help us out.